Hey there everybody, this is Camzilla 51. Are you tired of your Bruticus having a black head? Well, I'm going to show you today how to try and remedy that. You see, the thing is, Onslaught here has no black plastic, which would lead one to assume that this head is not black plastic, but it's painted black. And that's pretty thick paint, and you would think that you would have to, really work hard to strip it and sand it to get it all down, but I'm going to show you a little trick that I used today. This in here is 91% isopropyl alcohol. I unscrewed the head, set aside the screw inside a magnetic little bowl there. And what I did is I set this and the other piece, which I'm going to show you in a second, in here and left it sit for about the full day, not even 24 hours. But it was really successful. This piece is an extra little bit from Vortex that I just turned into kind of a scrap part since I replaced it. But I tried to use that to elevate the other piece so that the eyes were above the alcohol level, but unfortunately it toppled, and you can see from the red paint in the bottom there that the red paint did strip off the eyes, so I'm going to have to paint those. But this is what you're left with. This is a completely stripped piece of plastic. It's still got some of the paint in there, but it wipes off super easy. I mean, you can just wipe it off with your fingers or your fingernails, but you can also use a dedicated toothbrush. Now I use this toothbrush whenever I want to sand something and I want to get away those little sanded particles from a piece of plastic. I use this specifically for customizing, and it'll also be really great in this situation. I'm going to take out this part and I'm just going to show you how easy it is. Look at that. One rub and all that paint is already gone. Just like that. So in no time this will be a bare gray Bruticus. So here you have both pieces of the Bruticus head stripped of pretty much all of their paint. There's still some black that's sticking in the recesses, but of course that's going to happen, especially if this has only been soaking for a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a toothpick now, and I'm going to go into all of those little hard to reach places to see if I can get even more black out of those cracks. And if I can't, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them back in the soak and leave them there for a little bit more. Because sometimes the rubbing alcohol can attack the surface layer of the paint, but not really deep into it, into the underlayers. So we're going to be able to get to those now that we've wiped away the top layers, and might be able to get into those little crevices. Alright, so that kind of worked. First thing I tried was, instead of using a wooden toothpick that will get wet and get soggy, I used one of these plastic toothpicks that you can usually find at a CVS or something like that. And this also was just a little bit too flimsy, and it didn't really make much of a difference. So instead what I did is I switched to a sharp pair of needle nose tweezers. These kind of helped me get into a lot of the recesses. And you can see that I did a whole lot of damage here, but there's still some paint that wouldn't come out. If I wanted to, I could stop here, especially if I was going to do a black wash to these parts, or if I wanted more of an aged look, but it wouldn't match with the rest of what's going on with the rest of the toy. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put these parts back in the soak for a couple more hours and see if anything happens then. Right, so I let the parts sit for another couple hours in the 91% isopropyl alcohol mix, and it kind of helped a little bit. It helped with cleaning out each of those little edges. I brushed again with the toothbrush and picked at everything with that same needle tweezer that I had. But I couldn't get all of it. And here's the back of the head that I've already stuck on. You can see that there's still some black in there. But after looking at some pictures of source material, I kind of realized that Bruticus here has an all gray head, and sometimes that can look a little bland. But if I put a little bit of eye paint on it, it should really rescue that. I mean, he's even got some black lining on the rims of his eyes, so that'll help a lot. I think at this point I'm good, because any black that's still there will help define some of those little details and not overdo it. Because it won't look like it'll be out of place when you compare it with his chest, which, as of now, has no black wash on it. And I think I'm apt to keep it that way. So all it needs is really a little bit of paint, And I think this one's done. And here's the finished product, all put together so you have a big overall sweeping idea of what the gray looks like in context. I think it looks a lot better. It looks much more improved. I've just put a black background behind it so you can kind of see the definition there along the silhouette. And so what I've done here on the eyes is I used Citadel Games Workshop paints. I did a base coat of Rune Fang steel, which is a very bright silver. Did a couple coats of that until it was fully saturated. And then I took one coat of red, because it was all it needed, and put that red on there and then put a gloss varnish. So now those eyes have a very different texture, and they pop and they reflect a little bit of light from the silver underneath. So that looks really, really pretty. Of all the upgrades that you can make to your Bruticus, I think this is one of the best because it doesn't cost you much money. It only costs you, what, a few bucks for a big old bottle of 91% isopropyl rubbing alcohol, and you can use it for so many things. I mean, I've used this single bottle to remove the paint off of several figures, and it just keeps on giving, depending on how much you need to submerge. It's a simple process. It takes away a lot of elbow grease fighting a chemical battle instead of one you have to, scrape away. I mean, this is a very easy, very useful technique. I used it on Masterpiece Starscream when he had a gray nose cone, and then found out that he had a blue underneath. And that was really nice until I found the Hasbro version just had the blue one, and I altered a very expensive $200 figure. But this is one that most people have, and a lot of people I know will want and desire. By the way, if you're into fan modes, which if you're watching this you probably are, then this is what it would look like in the context of one of those. Of course, with these thighs, this is one of the most popular ones that I see going about for Bruticus, but this is also something that I've kind of found around the web, where the shoulders are naturally kiltered just a little bit to give them kind of a natural flay out to the side, kind of like Superion has. And it bulks them out in a really appealing way. Not only that, but if you put on the Repro Label set, then you get the exact same sticker detail that the G1 toy had. And I think that goes really well with the helmet piece and with, of course, the Shapeways add-on kits that I've got going on and the Perfect Combiner hands and feet. So with all of these extra additions onto it, and I know a lot of people will probably be like, oh, it's a lot to pay and a lot to do for a figure that should be the way you want it right out of the box. Well, I think there's a little bit of satisfaction to be gained from all this. I mean, it's why we customize in the first place. And this mod that I'm talking about with the head is particularly cheap and easy. So I recommend it highly, especially if you want the same kind of G1 look that I'm going for. For those of you who are interested in this kind of technique, those are all the steps to do it, and I hope you like the result, because it's looking pretty fantastic on my end. Anyway guys, hope you have a good night, and I'll talk to you later. I mean, if you buy more parts, then this particular mod is practically... By the way, if you're into fan modes, which, if you're watching this, oh Jesus.